Imagine telling your younger self that one day you would be earning $100,000 a year. $100,000. For most of us who grew up watching our parents clip coupons, stretch a paycheck across 2 weeks, and drive the same dented car for a decade, that number sounded like the finish line. That sounded like made it. And yet, right now, across this country, there are millions of Americans earning exactly that, a 6-figure salary. And quietly, in their cars on the drive home, in the silence after the kids are in bed, they're wondering why it still doesn't feel like enough. Not because they're greedy, not because they're careless with money, but because the world that once made $100,000 feel wealthy is not the world we are living in anymore. This video is for those people. And honestly, this video might be for you. For a long time, $100,000 a year was the symbolic entry point into what people called upper middle class America. Back in 1980, only about 1 in 10 American households earned 6 figures. By the late 90s, crossing that threshold genuinely meant something tangible: a comfortable house in a good neighborhood, a reliable car, a vacation or two each year, and real money still left over at the end of the month. It meant the American dream was working exactly as advertised. Meet Tyler. Tyler is 32 years old, lives in a mid-sized American city, not New York, not San Francisco, somewhere genuinely in the middle of the country. And after years of education, hard work, and climbing the professional ladder, he has finally landed a job paying $100,000 a year. He remembers calling his mom the day he got that offer. She cried. His dad said, "Son, you've done it." And for a moment, Tyler believed them. That was 18 months ago. Today, Tyler sits at his desk, staring at his bank account the week before payday, wondering where on earth his money keeps going. He doesn't eat at fancy restaurants. He doesn't drive a luxury car. He doesn't take expensive vacations. And still, somehow, the money is simply gone before the month ends. So let's start at the very beginning, because this is where the first and most fundamental layer of the illusion lives. $100,000 sounds like a lot. Most people hear that number and picture it landing in their pocket each year. But that is not how any of this works. And the gap between what you earn and what you actually take home is far larger than most people ever honestly sit down and calculate. After federal income tax, at Tyler's income level, he's reaching into the 22% marginal bracket. After state income tax, depending on where he lives, after Social Security at 6.2%, after Medicare at 1.45%, after his employer-sponsored health insurance premium, and after his 401k contribution, because Tyler is genuinely trying to be responsible. His actual take-home pay lands somewhere around $5,500 per month. Over 12 months, that works out to roughly $66,000 to $72,000 in real, spendable, actually hits your checking account money.
Now pause and sit with that. Does $66,000 to $72,000 feel like $100,000? It doesn't. And this is the first layer of the illusion. People hear the offer, picture that number, and make life decisions based on it. Apartments they can afford, cars they can finance, families they feel ready to support, without fully reckoning with the fact that nearly a third of that salary never touches their bank account. So why does $100,000 still feel tight? Because the number on Tyler's offer letter and the number deposited into his checking account every 2 weeks are two completely different conversations. And the distance between them is the very first reason a 6-figure salary so often fails to feel like one.
Now here is where the story really starts to sting. Because the single biggest change that has reshaped the meaning of a 6-figure income in this country is what happened to housing. And if you're watching this right now, I suspect you already feel this somewhere in your bones. In 1990, the median home price in America was around $125,000. In 2000, it had climbed to roughly $170,000. By 2024, the median home price surged past $400,000. And in cities where actual jobs exist, places with decent schools and economic opportunity, that number climbs significantly higher, Tyler is trying to buy a modest 3-bedroom house listed at $380,000 in his mid-sized city with a 20% down payment of $76,000, money he spent 4 careful years saving. His monthly mortgage lands around $2,100 to $2,400, depending on interest rates, property taxes, and homeowners insurance. That is somewhere between $25,000 and $29,000 per year, just for an ordinary, unremarkable house with a small backyard.
And that assumes Tyler was able to buy at all. Many Americans earning his exact salary are still renting because saving a meaningful down payment while simultaneously paying rent is one of the cruelest financial puzzles of our era. If Tyler were renting a comparable 2-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood, he'd be paying $1,600 to $2,200 per month, with nothing accumulating in return. Either way, housing is consuming roughly a third of Tyler's entire take-home pay. Financial advisors have long suggested keeping housing costs below 28 to 30% of gross income. Tyler crossed that line on day one, and tens of millions of Americans are right there with him.
So where does the rest of the money go? This is the question Tyler finally sat down and asked himself, with a spreadsheet open and a slowly sinking feeling. He expected to find some obvious culprit: eating out too much, forgotten subscriptions, lifestyle excess he could simply cut. What he found instead wasn't recklessness. What he found was a long, quiet, completely ordinary list of necessary expenses that each seemed reasonable on its own, but were collectively devastating. Groceries for Tyler, his wife, and their 4-year-old daughter run $900 to $1,100 per month. Not gourmet shopping: chicken, eggs, produce, milk, bread. Childcare for his daughter costs $1,400 per month, considered mid-range in his city. His car payment is $420 because his old vehicle broke down and he needed reliable transportation to keep his job. Auto insurance for 2 vehicles runs $280 per month. Out-of-pocket healthcare costs, co-pays, prescriptions, the occasional specialist average $200 to $300 per month, even with employer coverage. And his student loan payment, following him like a quiet shadow since his mid-20s, takes another $350 every month without fail. Before Tyler has spent a single dollar on anything remotely optional, no vacation, no evening out, no home repairs, nothing. The money is already gone. This is not someone living beyond their means. This is the honest, unglamorous arithmetic of ordinary American middle-class life in the 21st century. And the weight of it is genuinely relentless. Now, there's another force at work here that we need to be honest about, because unlike taxes and rent, this one comes entirely from within. When Tyler got that $100,000 offer, something subtly shifted in how he thought about money. He had worked hard for this. He deserved it. And so when he moved to a slightly nicer apartment, upgraded his phone, started eating out more on weekends, added streaming subscriptions, and bought a newer car, each of those decisions felt completely justified. Individually, they were. Together, they represent what financial psychologists call lifestyle inflation, and it is one of the most invisible and universal traps in the modern American economy. We tend to expand our spending, not because we're foolish, but because we're deeply human. When you earn more, the things that once felt like luxuries quietly reclassify themselves as basics. Eating out twice a week stops feeling like a celebration and starts feeling like just what you do on Tuesdays. This is not a character flaw, and I'm careful not to frame it that way. But it is worth understanding clearly, because lifestyle inflation is the invisible mechanism by which people can earn more and feel no richer, sometimes even more stretched than before the raise arrived. Tyler's salary has grown 30% over 4 years. His sense of financial security has not grown at all. That is a profoundly disorienting experience for someone who followed every rule, showed up every day, and did everything that was asked of them. If 6 figures isn't what it used to be, then why do some people earning significantly less seem to feel more financially at peace? The answer has almost nothing to do with the salary number, and almost everything to do with one concept: fixed costs relative to take-home income. Think about Tyler's uncle Gary. Gary earns $62,000 a year as a maintenance supervisor in a smaller Midwestern town. He bought his house 15 years ago
for $148,000 and paid it off 2 years ago. His kids are grown and gone. His car is 11 years old and owned outright. His property taxes are modest. His grocery costs are lower because the cost of living in his community simply is lower. Gary's fixed monthly obligations are minimal relative to what he brings home, which means a significant portion of Gary's income is genuinely freely available to him each month. Gary has options. Tyler, earning $40,000 more per year, has almost none.
That is not a small distinction. That is the entire ballgame of personal finance. The size of your income and the actual feeling of financial freedom are two completely separate numbers. Confusing them, believing that a higher salary automatically creates more security, is precisely how the $100,000 illusion survives and repeats itself across generations of working Americans.
This brings us to the single most important idea in this entire video, and I genuinely want you to sit with it. Income is not wealth. Income is a rate. It is the speed at which money flows into your life. Wealth is what you keep, what you own, what works for you even when you're not working, what would sustain you if everything stopped tomorrow. A high income without assets, without equity, without meaningful savings is nothing more than a fast treadmill. You're moving hard, working constantly, and not actually building anything permanent underneath you. Tyler earns $100,000 a year, but if he lost his job tomorrow, how long could his family realistically hold on? With his current obligations and modest savings, probably 3 to 4 months. That means Tyler's financial security is approximately 90 days thick. That is not wealth. That is a salary with a very short runway, and it is terrifyingly fragile, no matter what number appears on an offer letter.
Wealth looks genuinely different. Wealth is a home that has appreciated meaningfully over time. Wealth is investment accounts, compounding quietly while you sleep. Wealth is carrying little or no debt, which translates directly into options. The ability to say no to a job you hate, to absorb an unexpected medical bill without catastrophe, to choose how you spend your finite time on this earth. That kind of wealth has almost nothing to do with the number on your annual W-2.
So, if 6 figures isn't rich anymore, what actually is? And let me be clear here first. I am not suggesting that earning more doesn't matter. It does. More income gives you more raw material to work with. But the singular obsession with the income number at the expense of building ownership and reducing debt and creating genuine margin is the trap that quietly swallows people whole over the course of an entire career. The real goal isn't a larger number on a pay stub. The real goal is financial freedom, defined not by how much you earn, but by the distance between what you need each month and what your assets and savings could actually cover. The wider that gap, the freer you are. The narrower it is, the more fragile your life becomes, regardless of your salary.
Tyler is starting to understand this. After the spreadsheet, after some hard, honest conversations with his wife, he's shifting his focus. He's making extra payments toward his mortgage principal. He's cutting obligations that don't serve his future. He's investing more consistently and thinking further ahead. He's asking different questions. Not just how do I earn more, but how do I need less? How do I build something that grows on its own? That shift in thinking is worth more than any raise he will ever receive. Here is what I want to leave you with tonight. $100,000 a year is not a bad salary. I want to say that plainly and mean every word of it. For most of human history, earning that amount would have been remarkable. But in the America we are living in right now, with this housing market, these healthcare costs, the reality of childcare, federal and state taxes, and the quiet burden of student debt, $100,000 no longer guarantees the comfortable, worry-free life that previous generations were told it would deliver. Pretending otherwise is a disservice to millions of hardworking Americans sitting tonight with a sinking feeling, trying to understand
understand why the math never quite adds up.
Tyler's story is not a failure story. It is a mirror. If some part of his journey felt familiar to you tonight, that is not a coincidence. That is the honest truth of what it means to be middle class in America right now, working genuinely hard, earning reasonably well, and still feeling like one unexpected bill stands between you and real trouble.
But here is what I have come to believe after a long time thinking about how money moves through people's lives. The real illusion was never the salary. The illusion was the belief that income alone is the answer, that once you cross a certain number, the anxiety lifts, the freedom arrives, and the hard part is finished. It doesn't work that way. It never did.
The people who find genuine peace with money, real security, real options, real freedom, are not always the people who earn the most. They are the people who stopped chasing the number and started building the foundation. Assets over income, ownership over consumption, margin over appearance, and quiet, steady freedom over the salary that was supposed to change everything, but somehow, month after month, never quite did.
That is a choice, a deliberate, patient, unglamorous choice that doesn't come with a celebration or a press release, but it is a choice that anyone, starting from wherever they are today, can begin making right now. I'm Mark Reynolds. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.